What's up my loves, my name is Paige, this is Paige with the Page, and today we're going to be doing my January wrap up. Hello my darlings, welcome to this video. Today we're going to talk through the 16 things that I read in January. I found that the TBR jar is a legend and I set the target to read 200 pages a day. Whilst we didn't hit that as an average, once I went back to work, I got through so much. We're going to go through the books once I talk through the stats, but I'm also going to do this in a different way. And normally I do my wrap-ups chronologically. I'm actually going to go by rating, and there's a reason why that I want to talk about later on. But let's talk about the stats and then we'll get into the books. So like I said, in January I read 16 books, which equated to 5,373 pages, working out an average page per day as 173, which I am ecstatic with. And my average pages per book was 335 pages. I had one book that was less than 100 pages, one that was in the hundreds page range, 5 in the 200s, 3 in the 300s, 4 in the 400s, and 2 in the 500s. And for 2 weeks I was just picking out of this TBR jar, so it was completely random, which I'm thrilled at. But as a result of doing that vlog, I read 13 from my backlist, 2 library books and 1 Amazon first reads, so other. I acquired 1 book which I've already read in years previous. I listened to 56 hours of audiobook, and that is me calculating how much time I actually spent listening to these, not the total audio length of the books, because I am listening to them. I did say to slow it down, but I've changed up what I'm doing and I'm keeping it at 3 times speed, but I'm paying a lot more attention and I'm actually writing like a little spiel after each book, so that's helping. Funny that. So I've kept it at 3 times speed, but I'm okay with that. The kicker, my average rating was a 3.88. The lowest reading month rating wise I had it in 2024 was a 4.05. So yeah, I have started using Callpile and actually doing like my gut rating versus Callpile and where that comes out to. So I had 1 2-star, 3 3 stars, 3 3.5 stars, 2 4 stars, 5 4.5 stars, and only 2 5-star reads. In terms of genres, I had 1 classic, 1 contemporary, 7 fantasy, 2 manga, 1 mystery, 1 non-fiction, 2 romance, and 1 sci-fi. I had the most eclectic mix of reads, and that was 100% thanks to the TBR jar. I read just so many different things. I read 1 that was purely in audiobook. I read 1 ebook. I read 2 physical reads without audiobooks, which are the mangas. And then I read 12 physical and audiobook combination. I read 6 adult titles, 1 new adult, and 9 young adult. I didn't have any middle grade. In terms of author status, I had read 8 before, and 8 were new to me. So such a really cool split. And in terms of series, 6 were standalones. I started 5 novel series. I started 1 manga series. But I had 2 that were continuations in series, and I finished off 2 series. So this is going to be really interesting throughout the rest of the year as I'm picking up new series, going, what am I DNFing? Because there's 1 on the list that I have started but I didn't DNF because it's only a duology, and I'm interested to see where the story goes. But the book itself was only a 3.5 stars, so I got some thinking to do. I am thinking I might do a video on my rating system for this year, because I do use half stars, I don't use quarter stars, but because I'm using Callpile, it is really giving me that sort of differentiation as well, so I could split it, but I don't want to. Into the books, and there was one book where my enjoyment was astronomically high, whilst there were other elements of it that I could fault. It came out at like an 8.1, which is a 4.5 stars, but I've still given it a 5 stars. Even though I had other books that were rated higher through Callpile, my gut rating was just like, no. this is a 5, the others are a 4.5. So there's still a little bit of buffer room, but it helps just to give me a better idea of how I'm feeling towards this book. So we're going to start with the lowest rated and then go up to our highest. Let me know if you do want me to tell you what the core pile rating is, but I will just tell you what my start rating was instead. So the first one we had was Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson, and I gave this 2 stars. I learned a valuable piece of information about myself, and unless it's smutty, I don't like pirate books. I should have picked this up a lot sooner. I love consuming pirate visual medium, but reading it, I really struggle. Like, I love The Life Ship Traders by Robin Hobb, but the pirate elements of it were my least favorite part. I loved one of the characters because she was just so like, yeah, let's do this, let's be the boss ass bitch. And consequently, I want to work on these ships. I deserve it, but I'm gonna punch this other guy in the face. This, I could not pay attention to. I just had the audiobook on. I know I zoned out multiple times because I just didn't care. And I've learned a valuable lesson about myself, that pirate books and I, they're not friends. So, very valuable learning experience for me with that one. But I didn't care enough to be actively engaged, and I did think I should just DNF this and go and watch Treasure Planet instead, because I enjoy that movie a lot more. But I kept going because it was TBRJ and new and exciting, so. Lesson learned. So the next are my 3 stars, and the first being Family of Liars by E. Lockhart. I loved We Were Liars, and the shock element to it was just so good, and I don't think we needed this. It was very rich people family drama, which again is not something that I'm drawn towards in books. I just don't care. I understand that they went through some really hard times, and the way that the story was told was interesting, but it was one that I was like, yeah, okay, this is a thing that happened, but didn't have the same emotional resonance as We Were Liars. So unfortunately, it just didn't stick the landing, and I really don't feel like this was needed to add anything aside from backstory of the parents. It just didn't offer me much. It wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination, but everything just felt mediocre. My next 3-star read, I'm not even going to talk about, I'm just going to tell you what it is because I don't want to give them any more time, and that's A Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. Glad I read it, but I should have just let this one fall by the wayside. I've DNF'd it multiple times. I've read it now. And my last 3-star, I'm so disappointed with, and that's Magnus Chase and the Hammer of Thor by Rick Riordan. I love mythology-based stories, and I really enjoy seeing Norse mythology, but I just couldn't connect with these characters. I don't know what it was, but it didn't hold the same oomph that Percy Jackson did, and I adore Norse mythology. I think it's hilarious. There was a lot of comedic elements in this, but I just didn't connect with anyone, and I felt really sad about that because I do want to continue on with the whole universe, but it was just one that I read and it didn't do anything badly. I quite like the representation in it. I know that it's not own voices, so please take it with a grain of salt, but what there was, I quite enjoyed, and there were a few little tidbits of discussion in it. I really struggled, and I don't remember that being the case for the first one, and I will finish off this trilogy because there's only one more book, but I'm really sad that it landed on a 3-star because it was like, yep, it was a book that I read, it was okay, I'm continuing on with my life. Then my 3.5-star reads was I Hope You Get This Message by Farah Naz Rishi. I really enjoyed this. I think that it did a lot of good things, but I'm just not the target demographic for this anymore, and so I'm excited to put it out in the world because I do think the representation that is own voices in this is very interesting. There was one little concern I was like for a mental illness, and I was like, oh, I don't know how this goes, but they just fade into the background, so I'm like, okay, that's better than not doing it well. We've got 3 different protagonists, and Earth has decoded a message saying that aliens are going to destroy Earth in 7 days, and it's about these 3 different protagonists and the shit that they're dealing with and how their stories come together. So I think it was a good read, and I think that a lot of people will get a lot out of it, but those people are going to be teenagers, not me. So I'll be happily putting this out in circulation. The next one was Circle of Shadows by Evelyn Skye, and this is the series that I want to continue on and finish the duology because I'm interested, but it just didn't shatter me into 1,000 different ways, which is what I'm needing from my fantasies. This is the first in a YA duology, and there was a lot that I felt like I'd already read before, which is no fault of the book. The magic system was interesting and I enjoyed the relationships that we did see growing throughout. There were definitely some twists and turns, so I'm very, very curious to see where we go. And also the protagonists and their side characters' nicknames at this place are really interesting. One was called Broom, and I just find it quite interesting. So there's a lot of foundation here, but again, it just didn't do anything new for me. So 3.5, but still had a really good time reading it. And then my final 3.5 is Hellsing Volume 4 by Kota Hirano. And this is more of a me problem. I just get very lost with these. It is not a simple world story and it gets quite gory, so I'm not the most comfortable while reading this. It's definitely one that I talked to Ash about and he's like, yeah, that's a thing, and I'm like, yeah, that is. I still think I'm going to continue on with the series because I do have fun with the volumes I pick up, but I definitely need Ash's guidance to fully enjoy this, which I'd like to be able to just enjoy it on my own, but there's so many complicated bits and machinations happening with all of the different parties involved, and my brain's just like, I don't understand what's happening and why is he in half? So it's one that I do enjoy, but it's just hasn't captivated me in the same way that, say, Full Metal Alchemist did. Because there were definitely moments in that I was confused. On to my 4-star reads, I have Get Your Shit Together by Sarah Knight, and I tabbed this quite a bit and it really surprised me with how much I enjoyed it. Some of it was actually more valuable in reaffirming that I'm slowly getting my shit together. Who would have thunk it? Not me, that's for sure. And they're mentioning things and I'm like, oh, I already do that. Sweet. Oh, yes, okay, this is the next step that I need to do to have my shit together. And I do think there were many tidbits of interesting information, but it wasn't one of those non-fictions that I'm like, ah, it's revolutionary, oh my god, like, I'm a new person sort of deal. It was just really valuable in reaffirming that I'm slowly getting my shit together. Shit together? Apparently I'm getting my shit together, but not my sentences. And there's a few little activities that I'd be curious to do, and some that were like, ooh, I've been called out. Pitting your mental health guests against each other helps you recognize non-urgent tasks, prioritize to set them aside, procrastinate, and focus on what you really must do. Win at life. And I'm like, yeah, cool, thanks for calling me out. So there's definitely moments of just ADHD tendencies in this, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. So I actually really valued it, and this was one that was on the chopping block to be unhauled, and I'm really glad that I didn't, so surprising. But I'm also not counting this as part of a series, even though they're in the like swearing help books. So we'll see what comes of that, but I'm not counting it as starting in a series because I don't have any intention of picking up the others at the moment. I might change my mind later on down the track, but they're all standalone non-fictions, and she does reference it and say, in this book I did this, and it's like, thank you. So you don't need to read the other ones as well. And my other 4-star is Now She's Witch by Kirsty Logan. Holy shit, this is some of the most beautiful writing I had the pleasure of reading. But also, this is such an interesting narrative structure because we get the main start of the story and that's broken up into chapters, and then next minute we're getting insert protagonist's name here, but it's told in run-on sentences, and it's so poetic. But I read some out to Ash and he's like, oh my god, that hurts my brain, and I'm like listening to the audiobook. The cadence of it was just beautiful. Considering I was listening to it on 3 times speed, I'm impressed. It's just damn. And it is really focusing on sensuality, womanhood, witchcraft, and the trials that women face for just being women. But it is so beautiful. If you want a beautifully written witchy story, please, this is a must. On to my 4.5s. So the first is The Book of Magic by Alice Hoffman. Ha! I did it. I finished off the Practical Magic series and I'm broken quite deeply. I cried at the end of this because I have been with these characters, and it's funny because I watched Practical Magic the movie growing up, but I didn't read Practical Magic. So the characters for me are Diane Weiss and, oh god, what's her name? It's Stockard Channing as these visual for these characters, and it's following their story. It's following Sally and Gillian's story, and it's following Sally's girls as well. And that was really interesting. I really enjoyed seeing the different sexualities represented and having my heart broken into 1,000 pieces. This again is one of the most atmospheric books because the way that Alice Hoffman writes in this world is just so beautiful. And it really brings practical magic to the mundane, to your everyday plants and things that just exist in our world. She brings the magic to it, and it just is so wonderful to see that and experience it again. So I'm so sad that I finished off this series, but I'm happy to have concluded this on a banger because I think the prequel for the series was my least favorite. So yeah, feelings. Then we have The Start of Me and You by Emery Lord, and this was delightful. I loved seeing Paige's character grow throughout this, and we're following her figuring out her grief because she's only been with her partner for like 6 months before he passes, and so she doesn't feel justified in grieving, whereas people who have known him his entire life, his family and his best friends, are all absolutely devastated, but she's lost a love. And trying to reconcile that within herself, but also give her the freedom to move on, to grieve, but not stop experiencing life. And I just, Mini-Me was having an absolute field day with this, and I do wish I had have read this when I was younger, because I think I would have let my inner nerd fly harder having read this. But I'm very excited to continue on with the duology, so I cannot wait to see where we go from here, because getting to see Paige's character growth was just a highlight of this. Then I have Trickster's Choice by Tamora Pierce, and this this was really a month of feeling quite nostalgic towards a lot of things, because this is following the daughter from Lana the First Adventurer, which was the Tamora Pierce series that got me started on fantasy, on like badass fucking female protagonists taking down the patriarchy. And it just, so good. And we're following her daughter, and it was so lovely to be back with the characters, even though we're not following them in particular because the daughter gets into some trouble, and so she's separated for them for a heckin' lot of the book. But if you've read this and you know about the crow, please chuckle with me in the comments down below, because that is the only thing that popped this down from a 5-star, because I can't deal. But I'm so excited to continue on with Allie's story and see where she goes from here, considering the deal that she's made. Then a very surprising 4.5 stars was Hunter x Hunter by Yoshihiro Tagashi, and this was just adorable. This is all just, I'm in my feelings, kicking, squealing my feet, wanting to protect my little babies. Sort of a vibe. I cannot get over how Gon is so fucking adorable, and there was like a moment where he was running and it was like thump thump thump, and I was just like ee. Oh, sorry, tromp, 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 that's right. I was just like, oh my gosh. So this is really like no brain cells, just pure enjoyment. Cannot wait to see where we go. Very curious about all of their backstories though. And also like the fact that they kept intentionally mixing up one of the protagonist's name. Brilliant. I just had a fun, giggly, wonderful time with this. I'm gonna be in so much pain, aren't I? Where did you get up to with it?
Far enough.
Oh dear. How that's gonna hurt me. And then the other 4.5 star, I totally forgot about it because it's an ebook, is The Answer Is No by Frederick Blackman. And the reason this isn't a 5-star is I wanted more. I wanted so much more. It was brilliant. I think a lot of books that I read this month that I've rated higher were just giving me that silly goofy time, and I obviously needed that. And now that I'm reflecting on it, I'm like, oh, that explains so much about my reading mood and my ratings for this month. But this is a 68-page short story about a frying pan and how it ruins a guy's day. Yeah, I think the only thing I would have preferred, because I understand that we're following Lucas, our protagonist, that he is the focus, but the side characters are both women and they're only described by what they were wearing. And I'm like, I understand because the focus is Lucas, like it's an intentional choice, but I'm also like, can we have names, please? Can we not just have them as clothing? But I understand for the purpose of the plot, the reason that was chosen. It's just one of those things that I was like, yep. Whenever it popped up, I was like, yep, cool, okay. But from chapter 1, the first line, I was sold. And I read a section of it at Ash, I highlighted it, I was just kicking my feet and pissing myself laughing, whilst also getting emotional whiplash at some points. That's Buckman for you, and definitely such a funny read. And then finally, my 2 5-star reads for January. The first is The Bromance Book Club by Lyssa Kay Adams. And this is what technically got rated lower than all of those last 3 4.5-star reads. But, in core pile. But my enjoyment for this was a 10 out of 10. I had so much fucking fun with this. I did not know that I needed men to read romance novels being a plot line to be better in relationships. Like that whole thing, perfect, love it. But the thing I love more than that is the fact that the women also own up to the fact that they're fucked in the head as well. It's not just the men's problem, which I think is crucial for a romance, because if he was making all of this effort, you can see that his wife also has her own baggage. She's got her own problems and she's not communicating with him effectively either. So it's both of them. And he is really trying to make it work for her, so he's learning to be able to then communicate with her better and open up those doors of communication. Yeah. I was kicking and squealing my feet. I wanted to punch people in the face. I had a glorious time. And then some of the smutty scenes in this, I was like, oh, diggity damn. Also, the protagonist, the guy's name is Gavin. So you can imagine how that's going for me if you know Gavin reads at all. I was very entertained. I was just thinking of like Gavin pulling that shenanigans and I'm just like, hee hee hee. Glorious. So my enjoyment for this definitely rated it so much higher than the others. And it was just a wonderful time. I had so much fun with it. It was great. And then the best read of January for me, and I don't know how we're gonna go with topping this unless it's by another book by this author that is also on my shelves and I desperately want to get to. But that's Founderside by Robert Jackson Bennett. Fuck, I love this. I cannot wait for the Bookstara discussion. I know that Danielle didn't love this as much as I have, and Amy's still in the process of reading it, but I just really enjoyed being in this world, seeing the different scientific basis for how they make things function. It's just so interesting. And then you've got twists and turns throughout and I'm just going, what the fuck is happening? This is glorious. I agree with some of the comments that the action scenes were rather hard to follow, but I was just like, I'm turning these pages, this is amazing. Again, I cried, but I also pissed myself laughing at multiple points throughout this book. And I really enjoyed Sancha and Clef and getting to see Bernice and all of their dynamics and how that all then impacted on what was going on in the background. And I need to know what else is happening, because we are left with some ending and I just have to wait till March and I'm devastated at that fact. Yeah, it's such a unique magic system. I know that there have been elements of it being done in other fantasy books before, but it just felt so fresh. It felt so interesting. I love seeing our characters. They were fucking hilarious, and it was just basically my brand of chaos in a book. And I'm totally here for that. So I don't know how we're gonna go with the rest of the series. This has started on such a high note for me, but dear God, I hope I love the rest, and I hope I love the Tainted Cup and that series as well. Please, for the love of God, let Robert Jackson Bennett be a new author, favorite author for me, please, I beg of you. I want this to go well. So, yes, yeah, it's also blurred by Tamora Pierce. That's funny. Top book of January. So happy. Arm has gone the wrong way. My arm does not bend like that. Ow. My body, my soul, my everything. So this humongous stack, plus the 60-page, the answer is no, was the things that I managed to finish in January. And I am fucking proud of myself and breaking my wrist. Jesus. Okay. So let me know how you found this format. I had so much fun structuring it like this because I could get out of the way the reads that I weren't excited for and then gush about the things that I was really excited for. So I think for 2025, I might trial this format, but if you do find that it's not what you want and you want me to go back to chronological order of reads, please let me know and I can make that adjustment if that's what people would prefer. But I might give this a go for a month or two and see how we're traveling. But yes, that was my stack. I am thrilled. It was a big reading month. We're moving this month. I have no idea what I'm going to be able to read, if I'm going to be able to read that much. Probably not, but I'm going to have a good time giving it a damn hot good go. And I can't wait to bring back the TBR jar. I really want to do it this month, but I don't think I'm going to have time. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We can always hope. So like I said, this was my stack. And I am ecstatic. Please feel free to leave in the comments anything about your reads or if you have any thoughts and feelings on the books that I've read. And if you know about The Crow, please come comment about it. I need other people to talk about it with because that's a choice. But yes, feel free to leave anything in the comments that you want to let me know. And if you like this video, feel free to give it a big thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more of this mess, feel free to subscribe. I'll hopefully see you in my next video or over on my Patreon. Bye!